Are you kidding me? Are you seriously kidding me? That is how we end Dexter? Ladies and gentlemen, I just finished watching Dexter season 8 and I have so many thoughts and they're not good thoughts. As you guys know, this isn't a new idea that people don't like the ending to Dexter, at least the 8th season of Dexter. I understand there's New Blood and New Blood is the true finale. As a matter of fact, I've seen New Blood already. I already finished watching that entire season and I have thoughts about that. We'll save that for another video, but I'm gonna pretend that we didn't have that because for a lot of you guys, you watched the show before New Blood existed. New Blood came out like a decade after original Dexter ended. So I'm treating this like the real finale, which it really was the real finale. And it was the worst finale of a show that I have ever seen. And it's not even close. And yeah, a big reason for that is the ending. Like, the last episode was absolutely a train wreck. And there's no other way to put it. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion. But also the entire season was bad. I'm going to try to run through the season a little bit and focus most of the video on the rant. If you see me looking down, I have vaults and vaults of notes. Season 8 of Dexter was just atrocious. It was a piece of shit, for lack of a better word. And I'm going to start getting really upset in this video because everything they did just made no sense. There was maybe one pro of the entire season, maybe one pro. And it's the fact that we were introduced pretty much, well, it was 6 months, but we were introduced shortly after the ramifications of Deb killing LaGuerta. And I think the only pro was to see that Deb was broken, but there was a lot in there that I didn't even like the fact that Deb was doing drugs with this guy and like really off the deep end. I understand what you did can affect you in a lot of ways. I get that, but they put Deb down such a dark, horrible path that the character would just never go on in any circumstances. She was such a moral high ground of a character, albeit she had a potty mouth and all of that stuff. And then, of course, bad decisions led her to do what she did. But I just don't buy the fact that she would be doing drugs with characters like this and go that far off the deep end to the point where there was other stuff where like she killed the one guy who was like after the drug dealer, all that stuff. It was just, but like, again, if there is one pro, it is the overall concept that Deb would be so broken she would stoop to some level. So I kind of get it, but I don't get how low they brought her. So that's the one pro of the season. And the other pro of the season is Hannah McKay, period. We're going to get into a lot of the problems that Hannah McKay caused this season, but I loved Hannah McKay. I actually think she is, in my opinion, probably the best love interest to Dexter. So I'm not mad that they brought her back at all. I actually really liked her inclusion in this season, even though I didn't like that the entire manhunt was for her and not for Dexter. We're going to get to that, believe me. But man, that's it. Like, those are the only pros. That's it. I can't think of anything else. There is just so much, man. Like, a small thing that just sets off the tone in general. 6 months goes by since LaGuerta's death, and 6 months prior, Harrison was like 3 years old, but 6 months after the fact, they casted an actor who was like 6 or 7 in real life. And we're just supposed to believe that that's the same fucking age person? Get a grip. Oh my God. Like, what? That's just a small little detail, but okay. So a lot of this season, for lack of a better word, focused on Dexter and this new character that was the worst addition to the show ever, Evelyn Vogel. Fuck Evelyn Vogel. And I'm not talking about the actress. I'm talking about the character, because these writers don't know what to do and how to set stakes in the final fucking season. So they introduce a character that makes us entirely change our belief system over the whole show, because all of a sudden Harrison's code wasn't Harrison's code, but it was instead Evelyn Vogel's fucking code. Are you kidding me? Now, I could get behind the idea of doing that. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's not a outlandish idea to think that there may have been a psychologist in the mix who helped Harry go through all of this crazy things that his son is a murderer. I get that. I do. But you cannot do that in the last season and expect us to have any sort of emotional pull towards this character. This is one of the many atrocities, but it was a big one because it was a central focus of this season. We're introduced to Evelyn Vogel, who is this psychologist who calls Dexter a psychopath like 400 goddamn times in this episode. And we're just supposed to care about her and her become this mother figure to Dexter to the point that when she dies at the hand of her son, the brain surgeon, we're just supposed to feel really bad for it? Get a grip. Like, seriously, get a grip. Who is writing this? It's just, it's not believable. If you wanted to tell this story, you have to do it in a way that makes sense. And you have to do that seasons ago. You can't do that in one goddamn season and expect us to believe that as fans. Are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? Oh my God. She was insufferable. She was just an annoying character who, if I had a drink for the amount of times she said psychopath in terms of Dexter this season, I would have been blacked out. Like, badly blacked out. Because it's bad. It is that bad. That is one of the many atrocities, guys. I have a whole list of atrocities this season, but at a big core element, it's Evelyn Vogel, it's the brain surgeon who we go through many hoops and ladders to figure out is Evelyn's son, which is not even fun. It was boring. It was just a very boring story. Then the only other thing is we have this character, Zach, in the story who is basically like a fanboy. Like, think in season 10 of The Walking Dead when there was that guy who was like a super fan of Negan. That was Zach. And of course, Dexter wanted to kill Zach the whole time, but Evelyn was like, no, you cannot. He's a psycho like you. Fuck off, Evelyn. Seriously, fuck you. I don't care. We don't care. But that character was cringe, and I'm glad he died at the end by the hands of this brain surgeon who, again, we spent this whole time focusing on, and we went through like 3 different killers, and one of them Dexter stabs through the bed, and that was kind of cool. But it turned out that guy, who the fuck even was that guy? Like, I know I breezed through this show, so maybe I missed like some important detail, but there was that one guy who he killed with through the bed and all of that stuff, and it really amounted to nothing. Then only for a few episodes later, we get introduced to Oliver Saxon, who is Evelyn's son, and Evelyn just never thought to mention this like prior at all, up until the point where Dexter starts to believe that this guy is like related in some way, shape, or form. It's just the way it was told was just so dumb. And the reason I have such a problem with this, outside of the fact that Evelyn Vogel should have been introduced seasons ago, is the fact that this is your final fucking season and the pacing is atrocious. It's like a normal season of Dexter. There's no stakes here whatsoever for the first few episodes. And mind you, I am okay within the beginning of the season. We have this concept floating around that Deb has all of these hangups because of what she did. But even that has flaws. Like the fact that LaGuardia's ceremony or funeral or whatever you call it was 6 months after her death made no sense. The fact that we saw nothing of the immediate aftermath of that, like maybe Deb calling it in or something like that. We got none of it. We just do a time skip, which again, I could get behind in some ways, but overall, it was just, oh man, it was just so bad, bro. It was just so bad. Like, okay, yes, again, I could understand the concept that Deb has these hangups over what she did. It makes perfect sense. She regrets killing LaGuardia and wishes it was Dexter. Totally understandable. But then you do it for 4 episodes or so, and out of nowhere, the thing that changes her mind is Dexter telling Deb about Harrison actually killing himself because of the way Dexter was. So she decides ultimately then and there to drive them off a fucking thing into a lake. And then at that, she saves him. What? Oh my God, like why even do that plot point if you're gonna do it? It's just one of the many examples of the atrocities that this season had. Like really? You're gonna do that? Are you kidding me? Really? That was just all dumb. And that was maybe the only little sliver of redeeming qualities of the plot point of this season was Deb for that little bit of time. And then you ruin it by this. And then all of a sudden, after you try to kill Dexter, then you save him, you're just back to square one. You're back to normal. Yeah, obviously you complained a little bit afterwards, like I'm talking about Deb, but it was just like that never happened after the fact. And it was just so annoying. And then another small thing that I didn't even enjoy, even though I love Hannah McKay, is when Hannah McKay finally comes into the picture, she poisons the two of them. And I get later we understand that she had cold feet and didn't want to do it because she loves Dexter. I liked that. But it was just a goofy way to reintroduce the character because it just made no sense. Like, if anything, you're going to kill Deb and all that stuff. I don't know. But I do like when we got reintroduced to Hannah, she was actually married and with this billionaire guy, and they end up showing that he was abusive to her and all of that stuff. So she kills him and Dexter gets back involved and they rekindled their relationship. So that's it, really. Like, I can't think of much else that freaking happened this season other than the fact that once Hannah McKay and Dexter rekindled their love, Hannah and them decide to go and move to Argentina. And that becomes like the central focus of the end. Just to out of nowhere, Dexter's like, yep, let's go to Argentina. Goodbye. Like, and I get it because of the manhunt. I also understand that. And I didn't even mention the fact that a lot of the reason that that happened was because Deb is now working for a private investigator who he started to look into Hannah McKay and all of that stuff. That's where it goes. That storyline was not fun to me. It was just boring. Also, a lot of the Miami homicide stuff this season, while not bad, was just not good for a final season. Like, there was no stakes in it at all. It was just like a normal season. Oh, Masuka has a daughter now. Okay, like, all right. Like, there was nothing there that was giving endgames, except for the fact that once we start to pick up the relationship of Hannah and Dexter again, the real endgame was Hannah McKay's manhunt, which doesn't make any sense for a show where your fucking lead character is a psychopath murderer who works for Miami Homicide in the fucking homicide department, and you're not going to have a manhunt for him in the final season? Get a grip. And I understand that Showtime at large wanted to keep the character of Dexter alive, and literally go fuck yourself for that. Go fuck yourself, because that should have never been a thing. Yes, I get it. He was a fan favorite. Obviously, it makes sense. Dexter is an immaculate character. And again, this doesn't have to do with like Michael C. Hall or Jennifer Carpenter, because they were at their best. I think Jennifer Carpenter was at her best this season. Same with Michael C. Hall. But Showtime put Scott Buck, who was already bad at this, in a bad situation to have to figure this out in a way that goes against everything the fans would have wanted from this goddamn season. Like, it's just insane. So instead, you focus on this manhunt with Hannah McKay and you take all of the stakes off of Dexter. And ultimately, what comes of it is eventually Evelyn Vogel's son, Oliver Saxon, becomes this big bad who is not even a good big bad. He's extremely boring. And he gets set up in a way that Dexter, I'm skipping around a little bit, but Dexter ends up getting him at the end of this season and has him literally tied up to the chair, tied up, ready to be killed. And then Dexter backs off after he literally told Hannah and Harrison to go off to Argentina without him because he had to finish this last thing because it was like him quaking in his boots. He had to do it, but then he didn't even fucking do it. He saves it for Deb, but in the last moment, the Hannah McKay manhunt comes in and stops that traction. And also Dexter has a change of heart, which is so stupid to begin with. And of course, then Oliver Saxon gets out of the thing and shoots fucking Deb. Really? Are you kidding me? That's the whole reason. That's the whole reason Dexter stayed behind. And now Deb is getting killed at the hands of this guy. Like, oh my God. And of course, Deb didn't get killed right then and there. Deb gets shot in the stomach, which, in fairness, could be fatal. It could be. Now, I understand a lot of the community thinks that the idea, and believe me, it's one of the biggest things I have issues with this season, but a lot of fans think the idea that she died from a blood clot complication, that's the word I'm looking for, is completely out of nowhere and doesn't make any sense. I will say my best friend had a small surgery and the same sort of thing happened to him, and it almost turned fatal because of that. So I know for a fact that can happen. Like, it's not outlandish that a clot could kill someone after a surgery. That literally does happen in the real world, but it shouldn't happen to your main fucking character. Why would you do that to your main fucking lead outside of Dexter, who is the biggest fan favorite outside of Dexter in the show? Why would you kill her off screen after she got shot in the fucking stomach? It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. There's a million ways you could have killed her. Or you don't have to kill her, but there's a million ways you could have and not do it off screen. That is such a slap in the face to Jennifer Carpenter, who did such an excellent job. It's such a slap in the face to Dexter fans who loved Deb. It's disgusting and it's insulting. It's absolutely pathetic. It's just, it's crazy. Like, yes, again, you could kill her. You could do all those things, but you could do it in so many ways that would have made it way more believable and more respectful to the character. And it was just boring up until that point. The entire episode was boring. There wasn't really any stakes. There was no, like, it factor of the season where it was like, oh, this is getting real for Dexter. Like, this is really becoming a thing. No, we're focused on Hannah McKay. We're focused on Evelyn Vogel. Then these stupid things happen. I'm sorry, I just jumped around a little bit, but seriously, the way they killed off Deb, it just shouldn't have happened that way. Like, she's just such an incredible character. For her to get killed off screen was just disgusting. And then also the fact that, and I kind of get it, but the fact that Dexter comes in there and pulls the plug on her is like, there is a little sliver of hope that she could come back. Why would you do that? Why would you do that, Dexter? You're not that dumb. Like, you're not that dumb at all. You could have done it a million other ways. Oh my God. It's just so, and then not even to mention that, the fact that after that happens, Dexter literally just walks out of the hospital with her body in front of an entire staff of people being moved because of Hurricane Jade or whatever it's called, Jade, something like that. The fact that he didn't get spotted as just a regular civilian wheeling out someone who was fucking dead in front of everyone. Then when they go outside and he puts the tarp on top of her like a dead body and there's everyone around him, but he just brings this dead body onto the boat in front of everyone. Who wrote that? Who thought that was a good idea? Are you kidding me? It makes no sense. It's pathetic. It's an insult to both Deb already and Dexter. It's so stupid. It's so fucking dumb. Like, oh my God, how do they do this? How do they write this? I didn't even talk about the whole CGI stupid hurricane thing that Dexter goes off into. Dexter takes her body in front of everyone like it's no big deal, like it's no problem whatsoever. He just takes her body and drives away with it in front of fucking everyone. Like, are you kidding me? We'll come back to that in a minute because there was a lot of other things that happened before that was even the case. After it is revealed that Deb was shot, obviously Oliver Saxon comes there and tries to kill Deb, but in the last nick of time, Quinn and Batista come in, save the day, and arrest Oliver Saxon, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's great. I actually like that. But then they all go back to the police department. Quinn, Batista, Dexter, they're all back there. And Dexter just goes off to the prisoner alone in front of all the cameras. Even when the police officer's like, usually we have a police escort come in with you. Do you want this? Like, okay, just click this button, whatever. He goes in for a sample, even though he doesn't need to. And he kills Oliver Saxon with the pen. Okay, fine. You kill him with the pen. You got to do what you got to do. But Dexter, are you that dumb? There's cameras everywhere. How are you going to get away with this? And the fact that there is video footage to back it up is crazy, but that's not even the crazy part of it. The crazy part is the fact that after Dexter gets away with killing Oliver Saxon in front of the police, he then is questioned by Quinn and Batista, who watched the footage, watched him kill him, then have a moment of just pure fine solace, then click the button, then pretend he's acting all shocked. Like, okay, this is being presented in front of two people who have personal reasons to believe that Dexter is the Bay Harbor Butcher, and you just write it off like they're idiots? That is so insulting. That is fucking crazy. If anything, because it's your last episode and I get Showtime wanted to keep Dexter alive, if anything, that should have been the aha moment for both Quinn and Batista to be like, well, one, Quinn should have been like, okay, maybe LaGuardia was onto something. This was a little crazy. I get his anger, but like, that switch was crazy. Maybe LaGuardia was right. Maybe there's more to Dexter than we know. And Quinn, who literally spent an entire season hiring a PI to investigate Dexter, should have definitely been like, oh, that's him. That's him. Oh my God, it's him. Like, the fact that that doesn't happen is a disgrace to those characters, because I really like Quinn and I love Batista. They're phenomenal characters, but it is insulting to them that they had to do that. That they had to just be like, yeah, I get it. You're fine. We got this covered. Go home. Like, you did the right thing, blah, blah, blah. Like, we could play this off as nothing. What? This is what we spent 8 fucking seasons of a show building up to, and you write it off like these characters are idiots? At least, if you have to keep Dexter alive and you want to get him out of Dodge, you could still have them be suspicious and start this investigation. So at least you leave fans on this kind of gratifying thing where it's like, oh, okay, now they know, but now Dexter's on the run and they think he died. Like, okay, maybe I could see that being a way you end the show. Maybe, but even then, I don't think that's how you should have ended. This season should have been the manhunt of Dexter. It shouldn't have been the manhunt of Hannah McKay. It shouldn't have been all this drama with Evelyn Vogel, whatever the hell her name is. It shouldn't have been any of that shit. It should have been the manhunt of Dexter fucking Morgan against the homicide department, where he spent his entire career hiding his psychopathic tendencies from the place he works. That's a homicide department. Are you kidding me? This is how you insult your fans? Scott Buck, what were you thinking? You are an awful writer. Like, you're an awful showrunner, I should say. Are you kidding me? Now, I didn't even mention the end of this episode, where we get Dexter go off with dead Deb into the fucking hurricane, and they have this whole Titanic moment, like Jack sinking into the water, which, again, like, it's beautiful that they shared one last moment together. I get it, even though she's dead and all of that stuff. But like, really, Dexter had to go and pull the plug on Deb only to bring her into the water. Like, it just bothers me. It's not that he put her in the water that bothers me. It's just the disrespect for Deb's character that really bothers me so much. It's so bad, bro. Like, it's so fucking bad. And then at that, Dexter then decides to fake his death and go off into the CGI worst shitstorm I've ever seen. Like, the whole episode with the storm coming in looked fake. You could literally see the green screen on Dexter's hair. It's ridiculous that that's what happens. And just that's the way you end the show, by him riding off into literally the worst computer graphics I've ever seen, even worse than Toy Story. Are you kidding me? Like, how do you think that that is fair? How do you think that that is right to end the show on? What? My God, it's insulting. And then the whole thing where he's a lumberjack in the end, and apparently that's Oregon. How the hell did you get out of it? Not to mention that we literally saw his boat and all the wreckage. And even in New Blood, they don't explain it. How do you get out of that? What? You literally rode into a hurricane in the middle of an ocean and your boat exploded. Which also, to be fair, that also makes no sense. Wreckage from a hurricane shouldn't involve a boat exploding. What? And I know it didn't actually explode, but it was in like a million pieces. That wouldn't happen from waves. That doesn't happen. Like, yeah, maybe a rogue wave would take you out, but that's not a hurricane. You're not going to get like one massive rogue wave. It just doesn't make any sense. And where did Dexter go? He literally came off his boat, I guess, in the middle of a hurricane and swam in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean to Oregon? What? Like, what? Oh my God. And I get it. They had to keep him alive, so they had him flee on the run. But they had him flee on the run for reasons? Like, really? They had him flee on the run because he wanted to save Harrison? Which I get. Okay, that makes sense. But there's no stakes for you to go on the run. It just felt so surprising and disgusting. And it just didn't make sense. Like, it would make sense to go on the run if Quinn and Batista were on your case. That would make sense. But the fact that after Deb dies, you're just like, I'm just going to ride off into the hurricane. Well, fuck you. Fuck you. Not Dexter. Fuck these writers. This was a bullshit, awful season. And this was an awful way to end Dexter for the real ending to Dexter. If you think about it realistically, yes, New Blood is the ending, apparently, to Dexter. I know there's Dexter Resurrection now, but New Blood is like the real ending, and I have a lot of thoughts on that, so definitely be subscribed for that, because I will be talking about that. But this is your real ending to the main series, Dexter, and it was the worst episode ever. This was even worse than Game of Thrones. This was really fucking bad. Like, both seasons, like if I have to compare Game of Thrones season 8 and Dexter season 8 were both bad seasons of TV, but at least there were some like enjoyable elements of Dexter season 8, and there were some enjoyable elements to Game of Thrones a little bit in the first 2 episodes, but like Game of Thrones progressively got terrible as the episodes went on. Dexter was just like straight up boring, then stakes at the very end. And like the stakes weren't even for Dexter. And that's where it was so jarring and different. At least Game of Thrones, like after episode 2, just got progressively terrible. Dexter season 8 was bad. Like the plot points were boring. They didn't make sense for a final season. But like you could put all that inside and say like, if that was just any other season of Dexter, it wouldn't be awful. But then the fact that the stakes just amp up in the last 20 minutes of the episode and then you have your conclusion is just fucking disgusting, and it's insulting to the fans. And that's where I think the biggest problem with this season was. It was just everything was flatline, boring, pacing issues. Like it was all bad, but like, like whatever. It's just, it didn't become an ending until the last 20 goddamn minutes of the episode, because that's when the stakes come on Dexter. Like, fuck you. Seriously. That's ridiculous. It was awful. This was an entirely awful season. I still loved Dexter. This was one of the greatest shows I've ever seen. The franchise will forever be in my heart, and you'll be expecting a lot of content on it on the channel because it's now like cemented as a great show. But this ending was disgusting. And it was so disgusting that I personally feel I could write this off as if it didn't happen. And that's kind of what New Blood was about. But in the eyes of many people, they fucked that up too. I have thoughts about that. We'll save it for the whole review because I don't know if I feel that way. But my God, this was just... it was so bad. It was so bad. I don't even know what else to say about it, guys. I've been ranting for 26 minutes straight. I hated it. I hated it. Horrible, horrible, horrible ending to a show I otherwise loved. Season 6 was terrible, but this was way worse. This was just pathetic. Season 7 was all right, so I could really only say Season 6 and Season 8 were the bad seasons of Dexter, and this one was just on a different fucking level. Definitely let me know how you felt about Season 8 in the comments. I already know this isn't an original thought. Like, I know people hated this season. I get it. But yeah, with all that out of the way, let's bring it to the comment section. And until my New Blood review and my Dexter series review overall, until those come out, I will talk to you later. Peace out.